You don't want to have to replace your roof, and it was squirrels messing up his roof. And so he had a garbage can full of water. He was going to drown some squirrels. And he tried a lot of things first. It wasn't right to violence. I wasn't big on like fighting with my dad. I was a respectful kid. But Dad, you can't do this. Like, no, I'm going to drown these squirrels. So then we make a deal. He's going to spray paint a red stripe on the squirrels and drop them somewhere. So if he saw any red striped squirrels, squirrel genocide. But if they didn't come back, no harm to squirrels. There's no violence. He was nice. None of them came back. In the end, like the family unit, the squirrels didn't get hurt. Like things work out. You all got to work together and change the world how you want to as a family and respect each other.
Welcome to the James and Rithika Show.
Preparing for the podcast just now. And we write down notes. We know in general what we want to talk about. We know why we started the podcast, and it forces a lineup for us in some way.
Yeah.
At least some general idea of what we have to do in the first bunch of episodes. But in planning out the specifics, which we do basically on the fly right before, I tried to describe this part of life.
And I hated it.
Where we're deciding to
settling down.
Start a family. I stopped drinking. Not because you told me to. It's self-imposed. Yeah. I stopped, flirting with other women. I wouldn't have friendships that make you uncomfortable. I really am monogamous in a very traditional way. And you are too, like you've never been before.
Yeah. Yeah. Settling down is such a horrible way to describe what's happening. It just feels like if you've had this wild life that now it's this boring part of life and you're slowing down and you're doing all the things but they're not horrible things if you find fulfillment in them.
They're the best things. It's the meaning, the things before, and I've been blessed enough to live a life that was very varied. I could live out whatever I thought I should in life up until we met at 34, and whatever you think is exciting is probably an activity.
Yeah.
It's probably something you do in an afternoon, an evening, a weekend. But if you try to imagine a life, you don't need a lot of money to have a life. You need loyalty. You need things that come from taking responsibility for others. And then what you get out of it is, we want to have a child more than anything else. We want to get a house. We want to do, that takes money more than you would think now, and it's very, very difficult. But we want to have a child. We're sure of the direction we want to go. And it's an incredible thing.
Yeah. I think people mix up the order of things. I think that it's that you settle down and then you have a kid and then you have all those things, but in a way that's forced. Whereas we both kind of naturally settled down as soon as we got in the relationship, and then we got engaged and we really like you said, self-imposed, really settled down. I don't really drink that much, and you've stopped drinking completely.
Completely, yeah.
And then it feels right when we sleep next to each other every single night. We hang out every night for there to be a kid there, for us to have our own space, have a home together. It's not like we're forcing it or we're trying to see when are we ready, when are we not ready, should we be settling down. It just feels right. It feels fulfilling.
And we find harmony where we need to. And we don't do things that we're uncomfortable not doing around each other. We cut pornography out, which is something, whether people want to talk about it or not, that very few people do nowadays, especially our age and below. And you can have a life together. You can figure out life together. And if there are things that make it hard to be in the same room, you have to work them out.
Yeah. And
you don't take this escape into the phone or into somewhere else, into some vice. You're always aiming. Mm-hmm. And you combine your forces, your finances, your intelligence, and you start to develop something better than just really great activities, like the one time you did something that you thought was cool.
Yeah. Yeah, the escape into the phone is something that I definitely struggled with before. I was on TikTok and I was on Instagram and all those things, and it's very easy to just have that little hit of dopamine every single time that you scroll and every single time that you see something else, and it creates a lot of other negative feelings because of it. But escaping into the phone, escaping into activities, escaping into alcohol and things like that it gives you the dopamine that you would otherwise have if you had a fulfilling life.
And an escape from dealing with your problems if you're trying to have a relationship. Some people, they come to really not like things about their partner, but oftentimes they're the same things they didn't like at the beginning. You have to work on things, and it has to be worth it.
Yeah.
That's the thing. You're not trading all these great things, getting drunk and all these fun things for something that doesn't in the end feel equally fulfilling and then way more meaningful.
Yeah. I think that's what people think of when they say settling down, or at least that's what it means to quite a few people, which is why it does have that kind of negative connotation. It's like you have this life that's so fun and you get all of these little dopamine hits, but then you're not trading it for a life that gives you long term, like extended release dopamine.
Yeah, or even, I guess. I don't know if it's all measured in dopamine, the things that I'm thinking, but a lot of it probably is. It's meaning in general. It's feeling like when you go to bed at night, okay, I this thing. It's not who am I every night. It's not self-obsession all the time.
There's a joke that we heard, or a comedy special that we watched recently, where it's a mom and she's talking about how her son got married and how he said to her, "Mom, you're my extended family now. Like, this is my partner's, my immediate family." And it definitely feels like that. You're my emergency contact. You're the person on my life insurance. And we've brought our families together, both brought each other into each other's family and also brought our families together. And it's nice. It's created this big shape. It's like, when we have Good Friday and Easter and things, and we're with all the family and everyone's kind of buzzing around, and it's just not, it's this shape of a family in a home rather than like individual people. It's a structure.
It's a structure, and it's made from forming these borders. Like writing on a paper freestyle is great, but if you know how to have the rules of language, you could say some stuff. You could write some stuff. If you create the loyalty and rules and structure of family, we'll sit with your mom and my dad and, our whole, I don't want to name everybody, and it feels like we're one big immediate family.
Yeah.
And you feel this meaning of life watching the children grow there, and you feel your place in the world in a way that's more meaningful than any movie, any place you're going to go, any excitement you're going to have.
Yeah. Yeah, watching the kids grow up is insane. We've watched your niece over the past year. So you moved back about a year and a half ago. And when you and I met, she couldn't really even say your name yet. Like, she was just starting to, and now she's saying full sentences and asking us questions and and remembering and having and it's watching that progression is more fulfilling than going to any amount of parties, any amount of there's nothing that equates to that at all in the world.
Yeah, and then the first time she had Christmas last year, the first cognizant Christmas, really. I dressed up as Santa, and she got scared, and it was funny, and I took the beard off, and she was kind of angry at me. And then this year, she was excited that she had met Santa. You just see this, and there's memories that compound on memories, and this giant group of people who laugh about them and talk about them. And I mean, you find a center in these places. I remember when I got my PhD. That's why is it here? Yeah, I remember to put it here. This was an accomplishment. I had published a bunch of papers, all these things, and I was kind of at this pinnacle of what I really wanted in life, and I had this job lined up, and I was publishing my dissertation. And even at that time, I always knew where I came from and why I was there. And this was what I had written at the end of the, prologue, the thing at the beginning. This book is the product of thousands of hours of research, which I could have never carried out if I did not have the curious, creative, and peaceful mind that I do. This type of mind is the result of a truly beautiful childhood. The older I get, the clearer it becomes to me that my mathematical career did not begin at Rutgers, which is right over there. It began in my family's living room more than a decade earlier, where my parents encouraged my sisters and I to co-author new stories about the Super Mario Brothers. They just made a Super Mario Brothers movie. This is awfully topical and local. Thanks to these 4 members of my original clan, my mind was able to marry creativity and happiness, and I was able to become a scientist. With love and respect, I dedicate my doctoral dissertation to them. And no matter what I do in life, it's always going to be dedicated to them and to you and to our children and to my sisters and my brothers and to all of these things. That is everything.
Yeah.
And it always remained everything. And I think that's why I've always been able to remain level-headed and why I was able to take this step with you. I had good examples.
Yeah.
I've had plenty of opportunities. I lived in Silicon Valley. I made good money to live all kinds of ways in life. And then nothing is like this. Nothing compares to this. This is ancient. This is everything. This is how all of your ancestors were. Whoever you are, you wouldn't be here if your ancestors didn't reproduce and you didn't somehow survive. And you were their ancestors who were babies at some point survived, which means they were somehow protected. If you leave a baby, it's going to die. So you come from a lineage of people who take care of babies to some extent, or there were people around who did. You come from communities and love, and the ones who didn't have children, they're not your ancestors.
Yeah.
They're just not. And your blood is the blood of family and love, whether you like it or not. And you could have coked up, crazy, whatever sex you imagine. That's an hour. That's an afternoon. That's not a life. That doesn't sustain anyone. It doesn't connect you to anything. In fact, it probably breaks your brain and disconnects you from yourself. Yeah. You lose a part of yourself. You sacrifice yourself for something that doesn't grow on itself, that doesn't accrue interest. Yeah. You just hurt yourself by trying to have these wild things. And I'm not saying when you're a teenager and you're in college, you shouldn't do stuff, or the first time you get a job, you shouldn't, buy a sports car, be a crazy person, whatever you want to do.
Buy a sports car.
But life, the sports car is only cool if you could show it to the people you love.
Yeah.
Like the thing, it's just not... It's not cool to be in a mansion by yourself or with a family you don't love. It's not going to be cool to attach more sexual ideas to screens than human beings or artificial intelligence soon or whatever you're going to do. You're going to end up really untethered. You're going to get obsessed with... I mean, we look for meaning. We're like meaning machines. We have this consciousness that's like a radar looking for, what draws us, where we're... and we'll find it in ourselves, we'll find it wherever we find it. But if we find it in the place that we, in our souls, through our whole ancestry, have wanted to find it, I think that's the right idea. And it feels like it. And I'm happier every day that we really take actual responsibility, not a fake thing, not where I can't, we face each other. We face difficulties. We don't let each other do things that'll make us not like each other. Yeah. And same, we're real with our families and we're real with ourselves, and we make a lot of sacrifices to settle down, but really to learn the language of love and meaning. Yeah.
Yeah, it's incredible to see the children growing and be ready to participate in that. Like we, see your niece all the time and go, can you imagine our kids are going to have, we're going to make her cousins?
Yeah, no, it's unbelievable.
And it's very exciting. And it's something that, a lot of people don't really ever get to a point of feeling ready or maybe not a lot of people, but I don't think that a lot of people that I've spoken to throughout my life have felt ready for that step, or like it comes naturally. You don't really hear about that a lot anymore, that it would come naturally to feel ready for children and to feel and to continue your family, and we have a great support system, and that I'm sure that helps a lot. But it's also just when you see the family, when you see a grandmother with all of her kids and all of their kids, and they're all just playing and whatever, you're like, oh wow, that's gonna be me one day. Yeah. And that feels really good.
And they're all running up to show her things.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's something timeless. You're not going to lose your connection to a parent that's been good to you. You're not going to lose your connection to your siblings if you've been tight. You're not going to. Yeah, it's something that is the opposite of just an afternoon. You learn some rules. It seems tough, but with that rules of that language, then you could speak meaning. You can help people not hurt themselves. You could help people make better decisions in life, and you truly can be happy.
Yeah.
So many people, you'll hang out with them and something good will happen to you, and you'll tell them, oh, this thing happened, and you could see they just want to say that something better happened to them, or they feel jealous. It's like, you're not rooting for me,
Yeah.
And we have a system where genuinely they're all rooting for us and we're all rooting for them. My sister, who's also looking for a house, if she gets a house, we're going to be ecstatic that they have a house, that her daughter's going to grow up in a house, her husband, who we love. Same, if we get a house, they're rooting for us. They're sending us houses. We're sending them. It's teamwork. My parents just built a big, swing set
swing
and slide
set
thing in the backyard.
Yeah, and your mom was saying, like, I mean, we're not pregnant. Your sister isn't pregnant. And she's just saying, all of the kids are going to grow up on this playset. And there's just one kid right now. There's just your niece. But it's like, yeah. And that's what family is. It's building a playset that's like sturdy. And, we were sitting in the backyard and your dad and putting it together, who's your other brother-in-law. And it was just like, yeah, all of the kids are going to play on this. And that's family. That's just family.
Yeah. And nobody asked my father and mother to get that for their grandchildren, and nobody would have to. And we're all over their house Sunday, and it's just, it just works together. It's, if somebody tells you that something bad happened to them, you feel sad. You don't want it to have happened to them.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, that sucks. I wish that, like, you may not say anything. You may just listen, but you don't want that to have. You want good things to happen to them. Like, this whole idea of, like, a hater became very popular because, people are very jealous. They're malevolent. They're, on a light level. I mean, I'm sure we have been at times, sometimes when you're down and you feel like things are unfair, you like start to maybe not want other people to do well. You get a little bit inhabited by the spirit of Cain. It's very dangerous. I think we're going to do a whole episode on that I'm very excited about. But you can go in a very wrong direction. And, if you have this central unit that you just have a soft spot in your heart for, you never go in the wrong direction like you do for your dogs and their dogs and cats. And, it's just, there's something above the drama. There's a place you just sit, you eat. It's invaluable. It's incredible. It's no question I dedicate my PhD to that. There's no question I dedicate anything I would do to that. That's, there's nothing that I could do that's as important as what my father did for my family. Nothing. There's no degree, there's no job, there's no publication, and I have a lot of the things that people would want, a resume that people would want. It's nothing. It's nothing to life, And him and my mother are like the main reason why the three of us are so successful, together with my grandparents, a little less so them, and then a little less so aunts, uncles, cousins, this whole thing. And then our kids are going to have that thing on Good Friday.
Yeah.
What is that like, coming to my family's Good Friday?
It's just like a huge, big family. It's very nice. Your family really stuck, you all live in the same area and you walk in and it's just like 20 people that are already there. There's another 10 on the way. And they all have all these kids are running around. They're showing us toys. They're showing us their Legos. They're showing us this. And it's just like joy. Like, nobody, even if one of the kids like falls and is crying, the mood doesn't ever fall. As long as, of course, if they don't get hurt, like badly, of course. But the mood doesn't ever fall if some like little inconvenience happens, because everyone's just so happy to be around each other.
And if a kid trips, there's 10 guys going to like catch the child, and people have this dad energy where like kids usually don't hurt themselves. And it's, I took a 14% pay cut to do the same job here, to be remote. And I love my job. And I mean, it's worth a 50% pay cut. It'd be tough to live on it. We're not like that high on the margins, but it's it's above money. It just is. It's honestly, it's above money. It's the meaning of life.
It's interesting in pop culture. There's a lot of people now who there's a lot of female rappers. There's a lot, and not to obviously hate on just female rappers. There's, I think, probably space for us to do a podcast on the evolution of that sort of feminism. But there's a lot of female rappers like Cardi B, Nicki Minaj, Iggy Azalea, and they talk about female independence and all of these things, and not really. I mean, they don't talk about family at all in their rap, and they all have kids. I think Nicki Minaj is married. Cardi B was married or is married.
Yeah.
I think they did a McDonald's deal recently. Iggy Azalea has a baby. Like, it's just, family really ends up being the best thing. And they all have all this money, they have all this opportunity, and they end up wanting a family.
Yeah, I mean, not everybody skis, not everybody plays piano or tries, billiards or bungee jumping or roller coasters or necessarily anything as universally as people chase family and religion at some point. Even those who could really maximize short-term gains, who could really live out fantasies, who could have hedonistic lives at some point, do have families, do look for that.
Yeah, and it's really easy to maximize the short-term gratification now. I mean, everybody has TikTok. Everybody can, I mean, as long as you're above 21, you can go out drinking, you can go out partying, and a lot of people turn to food and different things, and it's all kind of interconnected. If you can scroll on TikTok, you get that, like I was saying earlier, that little hit of dopamine. And you chase that, and that's why people get addicted to certain things. That's why people get addicted to things like TikTok and social media, and people just keep like going after that and going after that and going after that instead of filling the spot for family and religion and purpose with something long-term and meaningful. They just kind of keep going and keep going and keep, because it's easier.
Yeah, there's a lot of ways given to you now to find meaning right here.
Yeah.
It can be monetized for you to find meaning right here and not look outwards. And it's very dangerous. It's very dangerous to fall into that trap, and you won't form the connections that people have formed throughout their lives traditionally if you have those outlets.
Yeah, a lot of this was developed very recently. I mean, obviously TikTok within the last decade at least. I think it was earlier than I thought that it was, but I gave that stuff up very voluntarily. I was on TikTok a lot before we met. I was on Instagram, I was on Facebook, and it's just, you don't really think of it as short-term gratification. You don't think of it as something that's addictive. But then when you find something that's meaningful and that gives you that long-term gratification, or it gives you like fulfillment and purpose, like our relationship did, it just kind of becomes easy to have those things fall away. And it doesn't feel like settling it down. It doesn't feel like I'm being forced, or I have some ball and chain, or I have, which is rhetoric that people use a lot for relationships. It's not restrictive in the way that a lot of people feel relationships are. If you want the ideal relationship and you find that with someone, and you find the thing that all of our ancestors were trying to have, then, I mean, there's something that just in your brain goes, no, this is worth it.
Yeah, and in the same way that I was saying earlier, I made all these changes. I quit drinking, pornography, all these things that seem like settling down, and you didn't tell me to. You would say, hey, I see TikTok isn't the best thing for where we're going. I'm not going to do that anymore. Oh, I know my friend so-and-so, you don't like that guy, makes you uncomfortable. I'm just not going to, whatever. And we just let the things that make our life difficult fall away. You can't have that drama. People are so self-obsessed. They think, oh, my partner doesn't like this person, I do. We have this thing in our life we don't like, this thing we kind of fight about. We're just going to leave it. We're going to bury it out there. We're going to do whatever. I don't see how you could want children in that environment, or how you're going to do it, how even you stay in the same room all the time.
Yeah.
I don't understand. Well, maybe not all the time, but you know what I'm trying to say. How you stand each other after a while.
I think people don't. I think people have outlets. I think people have, their own. Most modern relationship types don't seem to follow the one that we're following, which is we do everything together all the time. We're not really ever apart unless it's for work.
Yeah.
We sleep together or sleep next to each other every night. We hang out every evening. Every weekend we spend together. It's not like, and a lot of relationships aren't like that.
Yeah. And, there's so many ways not to be. The first time you have an argument, there are so many places to go now.
Yeah.
Digitally, physically, whatever. There's so many ways to get in touch with people. There's so many ways to bail out. And it does, on the surface, seem lame if you describe the kind of things. And it's because if you focus on the negatives, it just seems like you're restricting yourself. Like you can't draw everywhere.
Yeah.
But then you have the ability to form a bond that's comfortable, like actually where you want to hang out with your wife.
Yeah.
Which I feel like is getting rarer and rarer. Guys want to escape their wife, man cave,
Yeah.
Chat rooms, Twitch, whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, people are trying to escape their partners a lot, I think. And I think that we're doing something very rare by trying to, and not really trying to be together all the time. That's the thing. It's something we talk about we'll talk about in episode 2, is the cliche of the situation that we're in. You dream about or you think about the ideal relationship when you're younger, and you think about two people who are inseparable, they're best friends, they don't want to do anything without each other, they don't do anything that makes the other person uncomfortable, not because the other person asked, but just because they don't want to make them uncomfortable. And it's within you. You have some sort of reaction to your partner being uncomfortable, the same way that you have a reaction to, if you see something that you think that I'll like, you already know what my reaction is going to be. It's just like something that's innate, I suppose. And so when you have that thing, it feels very cliche that everything does kind of just fall away. Everything else, rather, falls away.
And, I think that it's rarer.
Yeah.
And it's kind of rarer around where we happen to be and with some people we happen to know. But I think still something like half, hopefully still more than half, of people still shoot at this. I know population decline, all these different things. There's a lot of signs. People aren't having children as young. People aren't getting married as young. And in our subjective experience, people are not as into marriage. And people we know who live together spend sometimes like weeks apart, all this stuff. People live in a way that is so different than revolving your life around your family. And in those situations, it's real difficult to imagine a kid having a mom and dad there in the evenings, family dinners, because it doesn't sound fun.
Yeah.
Like we have fun. It's not some restrictive life. It's restrictive in the ways, I can, be with other women or whatever, but it's not restrictive in that we don't have fun or like we don't, there's nothing cooler than when you came home and you showed me that you had gotten a tattoo.
Yeah.
I didn't ask you to. That was really nice. Yeah.
There is something about the relationship that we have essentially fallen into that I had seen a video by Jordan Peterson about the difference between, or rather the rejection of submission to a relationship and submission to your spouse. And that's something that in the ideal, both partners kind of submit to the relationship and you're inseparable in a way that's, you won't break up. You won't what a marriage sort of used to be. Yeah. And so I understood that this was my last relationship. We were engaged. We're going to be together. That's just kind of how it is. Yeah. And so not in a bad way, in a good way, in a way that it's like, oh yeah, no, this is it. We're engaged. This is my person. This is, where I want to go. And so I had gotten your name tattooed on my wrist. And I call you Monkey. Everybody asks about this tattoo. I have a hexagon with a key because I call you Key for Monkey. And I have your name, which I don't know if you'll be able to see it from the camera. But it's cute. It's a very nice, it's...
Yeah. Things like that are real meaning. And then I'd have to be a real piece of garbage. I'm trying to curse during the main podcast to then not commit to you in the way that you deserve after that. That's some nonsense. You know, we had seen online, I mean, I think it's true. It seemed true. There was all this stuff about how there's this comedian, Chris D'Elia, and he gets girls, like these young girls, like 18, to tattoo his initials, but like a bunch of them have it, like dozens of girls, something like that. It's unbearable, like, to think about, like, that a man would use his power that way.
Yeah.
Like, it's despicable. And everything that means to me, it wouldn't mean if I were that guy. You also hurt yourself.
Yeah.
You know, not committing to your wife and child, having this mess, you have no center. Your meaning is a lot of places.
Yeah.
You know, if your meaning is in getting girls so committed to you and you manipulate them so much because you're such fucking garbage, we might have to censor some stuff. You manipulate them so much that they get your name tattooed or something like that, then if that's really your meaning, that you're putting that much effort into that with all the things you could do in the world, then guess what? Your meaning is now in dozens of places.
Yeah.
You have no center. You have no life. Your heart is in pieces.
Yeah.
You know, it's not good for you either to not commit to a woman if you're a man. Or, you know, if you're gay, commit to a guy. I mean, I'm not trying to, this is not a bigoted thing. I'm saying commit to a partner.
A partner. Yeah, it's very common in culture to see that non-committal type of relationship from both sexes. The thing that you just said about a man with power. The ideal relationship is a man with power who submits to his wife and a woman with empathy who submits to her husband. That's the ideal.
And you don't have to lose the dynamic that the man feels powerful and a woman can feel soft and empathetic.
Yeah.
You know?
There shouldn't be loss of personality or loss of like personal meaning, or personal dynamic perhaps. But there should be a certain submission of both parties. And if there's more than one partner, if there's some confusion, you just don't have like a central meaning. And you can't really have that with yourself. You can't submit to yourself. You can, but like then it's just you. Like it's just you.
Doesn't sound great.
No, it's hard because I understand that for a very long time, unfortunately, throughout culture, men abused that power. And then women were trying to take it back, as an example of what I was saying before with Cardi B and all of them. In pop culture, in rap, in music, the men were being very misogynistic in their words and their actions. And so the women took power back by being misandrist. And it just creates a dynamic where no one is submitting to the family anymore. They're submitting to clout, and they're submitting to money, and they're submitting to multiple partners and all of these different things. And there's just no like singularity. There's no shape. There's nothing. It's just
no singular shape.
It's like a graph, not like a circle. I don't know how to describe it.
But yeah, it's not coherent.
Yeah.
I mean, I think, it's yeah, and it wasn't just, of course, in that situation. For a long time, if there's not good domestic violence laws somewhere, generally men are bigger and more disagreeable, and women are weaker and more agreeable on average, not everybody.
Yeah.
And so especially in relationships, women are usually attracted to bigger men, often older men, often men who are more successful than them, things like that. And so, if there's no domestic violence, I mean, there's been plenty of good guys.
Yeah.
But there's also been plenty of guys who abuse that. And, you could see why things tilted. But it's an overcorrection that is only going to hurt you to think that family is inherently bad. Mm-hmm. And, you hear women afraid, oh, men are bigger than me, the kind of things I was just saying. But then also men afraid, oh, women can, say all these things and get men in trouble now. You shouldn't even date women. You shouldn't trust women. Always prenup, all these things. It's like... prenuptial agreement, I get it, but it's not full trust. And if you're not fully handcuffing each other together and saying, all the money could be lost, all the life could be lost.
There's no submission to the family anymore. There's no submission to the relationship. And not in a way that's, again, not in a way that's required or restrictive or forceful, just wanting to.
And we're hearing a lot of new formats of relationships, polygamy, things like this. And it's just, if you focus on one thing, you can become an expert. And I feel like that applies to anything. And it's very hard to imagine you sustaining the complexity of that and then somehow having children,
Yeah.
and all these things. I don't know. I think you need the bounds if you want to tap into where most of your ancestors probably found meaning.
Yeah. I think that it's exactly what you said. We just handcuffed ourselves together and went into the world. And I think that that's the ideal for both of us. And so we both hold each other to our own ideals. Like I hold myself to my ideal, you hold yourself to your ideal, and we constantly kind of feed off each other and try to be better for each other. And, your act of submission was proposing. And then my act of submission was the tattoo and just being like, yeah, no, we're handcuffed together. This is forever. It's a very Indian way of being. Just like, oh yeah, this is my person. You're stuck.
Yeah, it was the Catholic way of being. I mean, it was the Jewish way of being. It's the Muslim way of being. It's the religious way of being.
The ancient way of being.
Yeah, it's the ancient way of being. I don't know. I think it's the right way to be. I think it's the right way to go. And I think when you try to tap into it, then you want to do a really good job. You want to be moral. You want to do better for your family, make the world better, and if you really take responsibility and try to aim that, you end up in places that we're going to discuss in the second episode.
Yeah.
I'm really excited, which is religion. And then I don't know if the third one will be the spirit of Cain. It's so heavy at the beginning. We'll see how we arrange them. And then at the end of each episode, I think we want to mention some things.
Yeah.
And maybe tell some stories at the end of each episode. And the things that we want to mention, we were originally going to do a segment, and then we thought, let's not set up segments right now. It's AI Watch. We just want to give some AI news at the end of each episode that we consider relevant. In my job, I work in AI to some extent, and in, things that AI is involved in, and it's very interesting to me. And maybe I can pull out some stories that people find particularly interesting. So I think the big AI news recently is that there was a vet that couldn't diagnose a dog properly, that had a fatal illness, and they brought the results to Chat GPT-4. We'll probably put a reference up. And then it explained a treatment that eventually saved the dog's life, and that dog is alive. Not because of its vet, but because of Chat GPT-4.
Yeah, the vet had said basically that the dog would need to be put down.
Or just wasn't going to make it.
Or just wasn't going to make it. And this person input the blood test results into Chat GPT-4, said, my dog is ill. Is there anything that we can do? And it spit out a couple of different things. And, he had, I suppose, already tried some with the vet. But he did bring any new suggestions to the vet. And they tried one. And it worked. And the dog is alive.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And then on the other end, some AI bot, some mimic, called a mother and convinced the mother that her daughter was kidnapped, and she got a horrible call that sounded like her daughter was kidnapped. And she says to this day it sounds exactly like her daughter. She can't tell the difference.
Yeah, it sounded like her crying and her voice asking her for help, and then someone comes on and says, here's the ransom, how much ever we want. It's perplexing. They only need, I think, a minute of your voice to mimic it in the AI. I think we had seen that.
I think our voices are very unique, like fingerprints, and it's going to need less and less of it.
Yeah.
And, I think people have seen now face swaps, deep fakes. If you haven't, actors in movies they weren't really in, there's all these videos on YouTube and people singing songs they didn't really sing.
Yeah.
It's, but where I think it's hitting the real world is it's going to be used in diagnostics and healthcare in general. And seeing there actually be an application is exciting.
It's very amazing.
One where they got good results. And then seeing that the scammers are really deep in it is something people need to be aware of.
Yeah, not being able to trust a phone call, is...
Yeah, I think at this point, though, it's not a suggestion that may last very long. I think the best thing to do if you're getting a call that seems insane right now and like it wouldn't really be happening, call the person.
Yeah.
Try to get in touch with the person. They don't have the ability right now to commandeer all of that, anything like that. So, maybe don't believe if all of a sudden, after 50 years of living in a safe, normal neighborhood, your husband got kidnapped. Maybe call him real quick, make sure on the
try
other
calling
line,
his
maybe.
cell phone. Yeah.
Just in case it's real. I mean, I wouldn't hang up on them and assume it's not, but maybe on the other line, something like that.
Yeah.
But it's going to be strange out there. And at the time when people are preparing to vote in the next election, there are going to be a lot of videos that aren't real, and I don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah, we've already seen some pretty convincing deep fakes. I mean, they're getting quite good. We've seen celebrities swapped into movies and different things. And so it's going to be tough if they can commandeer your face and your voice. We could have Biden saying all kinds of things that, when it comes down to the truth, he didn't actually say.
Yeah. Yeah, it's gonna be really interesting.
It's going to be unprecedented, like the president.
I thought.
Why don't you like my jokes?
All right, we're gonna end the episode there. Oh no, we were gonna tell some stories.
We're
Right?
going to tell some stories.
Should we?
Should we tell some stories?
All right.
So when you were 19, you had gotten an autoplasty on your ears where they pinned them back, basically. And you had gone for your follow-up appointments and different things. And there was what the doctor said was cartilage sticking out of your ear. And it's always been there since, I mean, obviously our whole relationship now, it's been 15 years after that. It sticks out of your ear. It often, if your hair gets too long and it goes in it, it causes an infection. It's caused quite a lot of issues. And before we met, you had to go on antibiotics and different things at different points. And the thing is, one of your ears has that opening essentially where the cartilage is sticking out, but the other has closed completely. And so after we had so many different problems with that ear, you finally said, let's just cut it off. Not the ear, the cartilage. And I was like, are we sure? Like, are we really is this a good idea? And you did convince me to take that step and try and do that. So we bought wire cutting tools, like the tiny ones for crafts, on Amazon. And we disinfected them, and you had the idea to lean over the chair so that any pieces of the cartilage wouldn't go into the open wound. And obviously it's very dangerous. It's right by your brain. It's, not a great place to get infections. And so we said, okay, we're going to try. And the next time it gets an infection, as long as we've cut it down short enough, it should inflame over whatever cartilage is sticking out and then hopefully heal over it. And that way, at least the hole will be closed. So we disinfected some tweezers, the wire cutters, and I tried to get under what essentially looked like a ball of cartilage, and I cut it off and I take it out. And there was just a little bit of the end that I tried to cut as close to the ear, but I didn't want to cut your ear. Little end sticking out. And you said, why don't we try and get that little piece out? I was terrified. I was like, I already just cut your cartilage. Like, I'm okay, fine. So I tug on it a little. There's some resistance. And then I finally start to pull. And about a 1/2 inch of material comes out. At which point I'm like, okay, I have a choice here. I either keep pulling and just hope this cartilage or whatever it is comes out. I was afraid it was a nerve, although I don't think nerves are that big. Hopefully it comes out, or it won't and we'll just have to recut it. And so about 1/2 inch is out already. And then I pull it and a 1/2 inch more comes out, and it comes out of your ear, an inch of material, And we're both shocked. Like, he turns around to look at it and it's like, what did I just pull out of your ear? 20 years almost it's been, or 15 years, 16 years it's been in your ear. And we're looking at the ball and we're like, wow, it looks a lot like a knot. Like, it looks like there's like thread.
Yeah, so it turns out for 16 years I had a stitch in my ear. And, I encouraged us to do something wild. And now my ear healed in 48 hours after being open for 16 years and having a wound and all these infections. That's the kind of stories I want to tell today, too. Just guys encouraging crazy shit. I got that from my ancestors. I remember one time I went over to my Uncle Johnny's house where we used to go over on most weeks, and he had a flamethrower because he had an ant problem on his property. I remember one time my dad, and this is the squirrel story we were mentioning before, had a problem with his roof, and it's hard. You're a working person. You don't want to have to replace your roof, and it was squirrels messing up his roof, like whatever. And so he had a garbage can full of water. He was going to drown some squirrels because he's not going to let them keep. And he tried a lot of things first. It wasn't right to violence. My dad's a reasonable guy. It wasn't right to violence, but he had tried things first. I don't know how old I was, 9, 12, something like that. I'm not having it. I wasn't big on like fighting with my dad. I was a respectful kid, but I'm not having you whatever. And so I was like, Dad, you can't do this. He's like, no, I'm going to drown these squirrels. And I'm like, no, you're not drowning these squirrels. We're not doing it. I'm really fighting with him. Our mom's cracking up. That was our dynamic, And so then we make a deal. He was reasonable. We made a deal. He's going to spray paint a red stripe on the squirrels and drop them somewhere. We're going to pick a location.
Oh, my God.
And so he outfits his car. And he's grabbing squirrels and putting a red stripe on them and throwing them in the back seat. And he goes, if any of these squirrels come back, and then that was his side of the deal. He gets to drown the squirrels. So if he saw any red striped squirrels, squirrel genocide. But if they didn't come back, no harm to squirrels. There's no violence. He was nice. I said, don't throw them in the car. Put them in like reasonably. You'll think of them as, having feelings, whatever.
Oh.
And it's like, all right, but if they come back. And none of them came back.
Okay, good.
And my dad drove squirrels to some, I don't know, fucking park
Remote
or something.
location.
Yeah.
So is it, just in the back seat, no cage?
I think he retrofitted something and they were just back there going wild. I don't know. And then he just opened a window and they jumped out. I wasn't during the drop off there. I think he was annoyed that he had to do it, but I'm very glad that he did.
Oh, no.
And
you didn't ever tell me that story.
No, it's just I come from wild genes. Same Uncle Johnny, the one with the flamethrower and the ants. He was mad one time. He was running a construction crew screaming at people, and he picked up a tractor, and his knee blew out.
Oh, God.
Like his body gave up on his rage. It was...
That's horrible.
Yeah, I just come from wild folks.
God.
No, it's fun. There's still people like that. It's weird to see that the culture isn't encouraging whatever, but if you're not being destructive, it's a good way to be. Just to be wild sometimes, And in the end, like the family unit, the squirrels didn't get hurt. Like things work out. You all got to work together and change the world how you want to as a family and respect each other.
Yeah.
And if my mom didn't find a way to be a stay-at-home mom and they had to really be tight because of that, and I think I complained a lot that other, maybe relatives had more money at times or whatever, and it's frustrating, whatever. It wound up being my PhD dedication.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, my mom being a stay-at-home mom is why I am who I am. My dad and I respecting each other and learning. I had to learn what it is to be a man, and he had to modify what it is to be a man and being a father. And this idea of learning, like a little boy copying his father, not copying, but seeing all the things his dad does and doing some kind of average that's his version of copying or mimicking. It's the tree of life. Yeah. These are good stories for the episode.
Yeah.
You have anything else you want to say?
We both had stay-at-home moms, and that was very helpful, I think.
Very.
It's a lot of the reason that I want to be a stay-at-home mom. And I understand in this economy, I mean, we very much understand how hard it is to have a single income home.
We don't know if we'll be able to pull it off. We're trying really hard to find a way.
Yeah. But the importance of a lot of your generation and my generation being raised with stay-at-home moms can't be discounted.
No, and I don't discount it. And I think of my mom in a much more positive light than if she had some kind of fancy degrees or whatever. It's like, no, she was there for me. That's like way more important. Like, we got each other's back. And it's, it's great that we're close with our moms. And it's great that all of these different things are what we're trying to continue.
Yeah. And, we've been trying to buy a house. We've been preparing to have children. We hopefully will go through with this house that's right in between both our moms.
Oh, we're trying. We have, it seems like an offer accepted. These things keep going. The housing market is crazy. Our sympathies to anybody trying to get a house right now.
Really, yeah.
It's unbelievable, but God, I hope we do it. We've been working hard for a long time. We're trying to find a way. I hope we find a way.
Yeah. And
I
then
think we
we'll
will.
Be real close to our community.
Close to our community. And that's something we're looking for as we're looking for houses. We're trying to find community, neighbors. Recently, we were at my parents' house, and a tree fell outside in the middle of the road. And it slightly scratched my sister's car, unfortunately. Sorry. That's really unfortunate.
Yeah.
But it brought out neighbors, and everybody knew each other's name. And it was like, oh, what should we do? Let's all pull it together, whatever. It was like...
Yeah, you guys were cleaning the street and, like, making sure that... And, they had called the police, and he called the public works guy, but we had already cleared the street, and your dad worked to clean out your neighbor's driveway because she was older, and you just know your neighbor's older. She's not going to be able to clean out her own driveway. She's not going to understand what happened, why there's these huge branches, and your dad is just like, no, I'm gonna do that for her. She didn't ask. She wasn't even outside. Like, it's just something that you do, and that sense of community and that sense of helping your neighbor and everything is something that we're really excited about being a part of.
And it's all the same kind of stuff. It's the stuff that commercialism won't sell you. It's not something you can monetize. That's what it is. The thing is, I think we all don't understand how influenced we are all the time by commercials, by different things, by each other, by the narratives, by influencers paid to influence us to think certain ways, all of these different things. And it's like, something that is invented in the last couple of decades probably isn't going to replace something that stretches back, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of years. I'm not trying to debate anybody on how old things are right now. But, very, very, very old, I think, very, very, very old. And, it's the ancient wisdom that we'll be discussing next episode. And it's the family itself and the value it gives that we're discussing this one. And that's really our argument. It's like, why would I settle down when I have all of these different things? At a click of a button, you could meet 50 different people.
Yeah.
You can have whatever you want now.
So, why settle down? But for us, it's, because we're going to have little people.
And all of these other side things that we're talking about.
Yeah.
And, family itself, there's real meaning with these things. So AI's coming. We'll see over the next couple of years. Things are really, really, really going to change. I shouldn't say coming. It's all over the place. But, something, approximating something. I don't know. We'll probably do an entire episode on this sort of stuff. I don't want to step on a bunch of things and start talking at the end here a bunch. But things are going to keep changing and keep getting trickier, and advertisements are going to keep getting more convincing, and it's going to be harder and harder to stand up for these kind of ideas and have the value be recognized by people through the mediums you're used to. The people you talk to all day on social media or follow, they may never help you align with these ideas, but this may be where the most meaning is. And I think there's just nothing that you're going to do once a week or in an afternoon or some hobby you're going to have or activity or some amount of money that's going to replace the pursuit of meaning in life.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks for tuning in. That's the first episode.
Welcome to the James and Rithika show. Bye.
Bye.
Doing it.
We were just taking
Okay.
meaning where all the generations before you obviously did, because you wouldn't be here if they didn't reproduce.
Yeah.
All of your ancestors found meaning this way.
Yeah. Stop it.
A lot of them grabbed their fucking...
God.
I wish we could put stuff like that in the blooper reel.
I think that stuff should be between a man and his wife.
No, all your jokes can be on the PG blooper reel.
You're rude.
You'll make a very safe, good, clever joke that I'll like. I'll like it. But you'll make a very safe, clever joke, and you'll laugh so hard at your own joke. No, we'll have those for sure.
You're rude.
This is all for the blooper reel.
Wait.
I don't know if it's tough to say grabbing my...
I don't know if we
Those
should
men
include
look like
that
criminals.
stuff. What race are they? Why are you saying that?
One white, one black. How safe am I? And that's not the point anyway. It was more how they were dressed, that they were hunched over. They had dirty bags. Dirty plastic bags. Not like homeless. Like they've been doing bad stuff with those bags. I don't know what's in those bags. I don't want to know what's in those bags.
Wow.